Welcome back to the Become Your Own Muse podcast. I am your host, Danielle Lowy. Today, I want to talk about all the tea and juice from the retreat that I was in Australia. If you have seen any of the videos from it, you probably are like, what the actual F is going on in there? I've gotten so many comments from videos that I've posted being like, is this a cult? Like, what is happening here? It's just like flooring people. Like, why would you want to put yourself in this situation? It was torrential downpouring rain. We were wearing weighted vest the whole time, 20-pound weight vests. We're just doing this like excessive exercising, and it was a lot of really intense stuff. And I want to talk about the retreat because one, it's just causing a lot of dysregulation from people of why would you do this? What is going on? That kind of thing. But also there's a lot that I took away from the retreat that I think is going to be really relevant for you as you are building your own life, as you're building and going on your confidence journey. So I want to start off with, why did I go to this retreat in the first place? Like, what is happening here? How did I end up in Australia when I literally live in the middle of the country in the United States? So I have been working with my mentor, Dij'a, for probably a little over a year now. And I remember when I first found her on Instagram, I was just floored by her for two reasons. One, she had a very similar personality style as me, where she's very blunt, she's very direct. She's not very like animated, bubbly in your face. She's very like regulated, calm, but like when she talks, you're almost very mesmerized by her. And, you know, I have my own journey. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but my own journey of having these insecurities around my personality because I am not super animated. I'm not super bubbly. And to see her be so powerful and just kind of say what she wanted to say and be very blunt and very honest and not really care if she was upsetting people or making people feel insecure. I was like, holy shit. Like, she is the evolved version of me. Like, this is who I could be if I fully embraced everything about me and my personality. So that, number one, just got my attention. And number two is she was just doing things that really made me question things in my own life, where she would do something, or she would work out, or she'd be really healthy, or she would eat a certain way, or she would dance in front of the mirror, or whatever she was doing. I would be like, why am I not doing that in my own life? Or I would feel myself getting really triggered. And I know that the people who piss me off the most online, the people who trigger me, the people who get me to think, the people who, when I'm on their social media page and then I like close my phone, but then I'm still thinking about them later, I'm like, I need to get in the room with them. I need to see what they're doing. I need to understand their mindset. I need to just like start learning from them, because if they are pissing me off, triggering me, getting me to think about my own life, I need to know what's going on over there. Like, I just need to know, right? Because that's where your biggest lessons for growth are going to be, is where someone is being a huge mirror for you in your own life of where you may be holding yourself back, where you're limiting yourself, where you're making excuses for yourself. And she was doing this for me. And so I've been working with her for about a year now, and I've gotten more in closer proximity with her. And she hosts these retreats. She's all around discipline. Discipline is her thing. She is the go-to of the industry with regards to discipline. She's one of the most just integral people I know to teach discipline. And she hosts these retreats over in Australia called it's part of her company, The Dangerous Movement. And it's a really, the reason that she does them is because she believes in a lot of really somatic learning, meaning that you learn lessons from your physical body, right? Like, it's one thing to be able to read a personal development book and be like, okay, cool, now I have that mindset. It's another thing to actually be in your physical body doing a really hard workout and showing yourself, hey, I actually didn't give up. Hey, people are relying on me that are doing this workout with me as a team. I actually didn't give up. So you learn lessons a lot quicker when you are doing something with your physical body, when you somatically can feel it. And she uses a lot of analogies when we are doing different workouts to help us understand how to tie this back to our everyday life. So it's a really cool experience. It's a big mix of a lot of physical activity, 4 a.m. wake ups. It just happened that it was torrential downpouring rain when we were there, which like I loved because it just added to the drama. The content was incredible. It was just us like in the pouring rain at 4 a.m. It was still dark out. It was incredible. And there was probably 3 workouts a day, but there was also a lot of just masterminding and mindset work and us sitting there and journaling and talking. So it was a really, 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 really cool experience. Why did I go? So I saw that she was advertising this retreat. And one, you can only learn so much from someone online. Like, I like to physically put myself in the room with this person, not just to get closer to them in proximity, but to also just like learn how they lead. She is a true leader. I want to be running my own live events and retreats one day. So I wanted to witness how a true leader, and like who I think is one of the best mentors out there in my industry that I work in, I wanted to watch her in real life lead a group of women, lead a group of very powerful women, so that I could see how she does it and that I could learn from her directly. I personally like to do stuff that is really out of my comfort zone. Like I will see something happening and I will commit to it before I've even had the chance to talk myself out of it. Like I've done this for a lot of things in my life where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And then I buy the ticket or make the plans. And then my mind like kind of catches up at that point. I'm like, oh shit, what did you actually commit to? And the deed's been done. I've committed and I don't have any time to talk myself out of it. That's kind of just what I do. And I kind of really, really enjoy these types of experiences because the more uncomfortable that I get and the more dysregulated I get from these wild experiences, the more I grow. And I love putting myself into uncomfortable situations because I always just learn so much about myself and how I show up and how I perform at these different events, whatever they may be. I've done this before with, I flew across the country before to attend a money conference all by myself. Even just doing like ice baths, which is really dysregulating for me because I hate the cold. I hate cold water. I moved across the country by myself. Like I've just done a lot of things that for the typical person, they may have take like years or months to plan. You need to like talk your way into it. You need to be rational about it. And I'm just like, fuck it, we're doing it. Let's go. And we'll figure it out along the way. That was kind of the situation for this. It just made sense for me. Wanting to be in person with Dij'a to actually learn from her. B, knowing this was going to be really out of my comfort zone, really difficult. And just being around a group of really, really elite women. And I wanted to understand how I actually showed up. I talk a lot of talk, right? Like I've gone through a lot of personal development work and growth and transformation over the past few years. However, and I said this when I got to the retreat to everyone, I was like, I've gone through a lot of growth, but I've stayed for the most part in my little bubble, right? Like I live in my town with my friends and I work with my clients and do my business and do my corporate job. And I have my little day-to-day life bubble. Can I still show up to the levels that I preach and believe that I can outside of my little bubble? If I'm put in a really challenging situation with women who are very elite, with very elite mindsets, will I feel like I'm in a coward? Am I going to go back to my old ways, or am I going to actually step the fuck up and do what I do in my everyday life? Like that was the huge part for me, was can I prove to myself that I can do this in situations that are not super comfortable for me? And that was kind of my methodology going into it of I want to really observe myself. How am I going to show up? I have a lot of sisterhood wounds. I have a lot of, in the past, difficulty being in groups of large women, just given some past trauma I had with friends. And I wanted to see like, how are you going to show up? How are you going to communicate with these women? Are you going to feel like you're not your confident self? Are you going to cower? Are you going to actually speak up? Are you going to give up during these workouts? Are you gonna show up? Are you gonna like, I just really, it was like an experiment on myself. I really wanted to just understand, could I walk the walk of what I've been saying online, what I've been saying in my own hometown? Could I do it really in any situation, and even like one of the toughest situations? And how was I going to show up for myself? Was I going to give up, or was I going to actually show the fuck up? So that was a huge reason. So going into the retreat, it was very emotionally, mentally draining, but also at the same time so recharging and just like so validating for me. And I want to talk about some of the main takeaways that I took from this weekend that are really important to talk about, and something I'm going to be keeping with me, and something that I think many of you should be thinking about and considering. And these are conversations that I want to start having. And the first one, just for me personally, was confirming that my process for building intrinsic confidence, it works, right? Like I was competing with elite women. There was a police officer there. There was an army sergeant there who had been deployed in Afghanistan. Yet I did not feel dysregulated in the slightest. I got there. I thought I was going to be scared. I thought I was going to like cower in the corner. I thought that, I don't know. I just didn't think, I felt like I would be very dysregulated. I'd feel out of place, and I didn't. I went in there and I was extremely confident. I had really great conversations with all these women right from the start. And I never felt timid. I never felt shy. And my old version of me, who was so insecure, so anxious all the time, especially in large groups of women, I would have been very, very triggered. But because of all the work that I've done using my intrinsic confidence work, I was able to come into this group of women who were elite women and not be dysregulated and still be as confident as I am in my normal day-to-day life, still be as confident as I am when I work with my clients, still be as confident as I am around my friends. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel insecure. And that was huge. Like, to know that all the work that I've been doing, and this is what I said from the beginning, I wanted to know that when I went in there, I could walk the walk and show up to the levels that I show up on a daily basis in my little bubble of my town that I live in. I could pick myself up, put myself in any type of tough situation, I would still show up to the same levels. And that's exactly what happened. So that was really, really cool to witness. And it just further proved to me this work. It further proved to me my why and why I am doing this and why I am teaching confidence, because confidence can be looked at such a like surface level thing. It's like, oh, you're confident, you're full of yourself, you're happy. And it's like, it's so much deeper than that. And the way that I teach confidence, it goes into the levels of discipline you have and the consistency in your life. It goes into the levels of respect you have. It goes into how you can present yourself and hold yourself in large groups of really powerful people. Like, it's so much deeper, the work that I'm doing and how I teach confidence work and the impact that it has. I literally saw it firsthand when I was there of, if I came to this retreat a few years ago, I probably would have, I don't even know if I would have made it there. Like, I probably would have freaked out and panicked and left on the car ride there. And then while I was there, there's 100 different situations of very uncomfortable conversations, physical activity, emotional activity, where I would have just left. And I could like very slightly feel that thought come up of like, oh, I just want to fucking leave. And I was able to be like, no, and push it back down. And that's such a testament to the work that I do, that I was like, I've mastered this. It was confirmation. And it's like, I know this is what I need to be doing. This is what I need to be teaching people. And it really solidified for me the work that I'm doing and how powerful it can be. The second biggest thing I took away from the retreat was just how much we normalize low frequency behavior and just what we normalize in general. So going into the retreat, I don't know if it was ever like officially said, but just the women who are here know that we chose to be there, right? Like, we're going through this very like physical, tough, we're getting up at 4 a.m. It's pouring rain. We're doing these like really intense workouts, but we chose to be there. It was a privilege for us to be there. We are putting ourselves there to better ourselves so that we can be a role model for our clients, for our friends, for our family. Like, what a fucking privilege, especially me. And I kept saying that to myself over and over. I am sitting in Australia right now. I flew a 16-hour plane ride and I'm in Australia with one of the most elite women I know who is mentoring me, surrounded by 14 other incredible women. Like, how much of a privilege is that? And that's what I kept telling myself. And we kind of all had this mindset. I don't know if it was ever said, but it was kind of an unspoken rule of, you are not going to complain. We're not going to complain about how tired you are, how much your legs hurt, like whatever it may be, that it's raining outside. I think at one point someone said, if someone's complaining, just do 10 push-ups because we're not going to have that. And it was really interesting because when you can't complain, you actually recognize how easy it is to complain and how much we rely on complaining, gossiping, other low frequency behavior to connect with other people. Like, it's really easy for me to come in, and I found myself doing this a lot of times where I was in the room with someone. I was like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, my leg hurt. I felt myself wanting to do that because it's a really easy way to start a conversation with someone because we're both going through that. So, why not bring this up? Because we can both connect over this because we both feel it. But instead of just resorting to my legs hurt or I'm tired, like, yeah, no shit. We all are up at 4 a.m. We're all doing 3 workouts a day. We're all fucking tired. What if I evolved my conversation, removed that, and connected with you over something that had a little bit more depth? So there were a lot of times throughout the weekend where I found myself wanting to connect over, oh, I'm so tired, but I didn't. And I said, hey, what was your mindset like out there? How did you feel when we were doing this activity? Right? And so much more gets to come up when you challenge yourself to not go to the surface level, easy route of, I'm going to connect with this person over a complaint or gossiping or, a complaint about a common person that, or gossiping about a common person, that's really common with, I think, friendships, especially friendships that maybe you, they're not currently in your life. Maybe they're like people you used to be friends with and you don't see a lot, but then you see them again, and then you start gossiping over, oh, did you hear what this person did? Did you hear what that person did? Because you don't really have a lot in common anymore. So really the only way that you can connect with people and feel that connection, that spark, once again, is by gossiping or complaining about someone else. When you remove that and you challenge yourself to not complain, to not make excuses, to not gossip, you'll be surprised at how much more depth you can get into with other people. Right? And it's like, I thought that I've been implementing this too in my life, where I've been trying to, and I've been doing this before the retreat, but I've also been doing this a lot, being very cognizant after the retreat too, of like, what would my life look like if I didn't talk about the weather? If I didn't talk about if I was tired, if I didn't talk about anything that was surface level, that's just like a very easy go-to, what would that look like? I was actually at a concert last week, and there was someone new that I was talking to, and I felt myself wanting to, it was kind of a colder night that we were out at a concert, and I felt myself wanting to just easily be like, oh, it's so cold. Oh, look, it stopped raining, because that's just such an easy thing to do, but I didn't. And I started asking her more questions about her life and her wedding and things like that. And we got into this really cool flow of conversation. And we actually sat there for probably an hour talking. But if I had just resorted to the surface level conversation, that probably wouldn't have happened. So just like be really cognizant and try to challenge yourself of, can I actually not complain? Can I not gossip with other people? Like, what if I just found something else to talk about? Right? And the more that you do this, the easier it's going to get. And the more that you, and when you're talking to someone about the weather or another person or whatever, you're not actually engaged with them. You don't actually really care about what's going on in their life. You're just making conversation to make small talk and to make conversation and to not make it awkward. When you actually care and put in effort to be present with the person that you're with and ask them about something that is below surface level, the friendship that you have is just going to be a lot more dynamic. It's going to have a lot more depth, and they're just going to remember you. Maybe it's not even a friend. Maybe it's just a person you met one time. They're going to remember you because of the conversations you had, because of how present you were. They're not going to remember exactly what you talked about, but they're going to leave and be like, I felt really good around that person. Like, that person's energy was really good. And I get that a lot now in my day-to-day life, because that presence is a huge focus area that I've been working on for the past year or two, of just when I am with someone, to really engage with them, to make eye contact, to really listen to what they're saying. And I've noticed a trend of people just say, I just like being around your energy. They can't really, they can't pinpoint it, because it's solely body language and they're reading it, but it is presence, it's body language, it's genuine interest and care about what they're talking about. And maybe people can't articulate that, but they feel it. And people will say, wow, like, I really enjoyed being in your energy. Right? So another thing that kind of ties into this like low frequency behavior, and it was more just an observation about myself, after coming back from the retreat and just normalizing this type of conversation, just really eliminating a lot of low frequency behavior. I mean, like, this is not normal. This is not what I want my life to be. I thought that it might be a little dysregulating to come back into normal day-to-day life. I feel like when I do go, in the past, when I've gone on like retreats like this or very transformational experience, I come back into my day-to-day life and I get very triggered by the people around me, because I come from this like really high frequency vibe space, and then I come back into day-to-day life and I hear people complaining or like making excuses or gossiping or whatever, and it really just like triggers me and I get really frustrated and I'm like, oh, this is so annoying. And specifically with this retreat, I actually was meeting up with my parents were in Australia as well, so I was meeting up with them directly after. So they picked me up from the retreat, so I knew immediately after I would be in the car with my parents for 3 hours driving back to Sydney, and for a lot of people that could be really triggering. And it's interesting because I actually didn't have that experience at all. And this is, again, going back to a testament of the work that I've done with intrinsic confidence work, because with intrinsic confidence work, you get really familiar with your ego. And your ego is the thing that is telling you, like, I'm better than everyone else. Like, I just did all this work on myself and now everyone else sucks and they're not as woke as me and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like creating this story for you. And that's kind of what happened to me in the past and tended to happen with me in the past. And I just didn't have that at all. I came back and I was very regulated. I might hear complaining or gossiping or see people making excuses or doing this like low frequency stuff that I didn't really want to normalize anymore, but it didn't impact me. I wasn't like, oh, I'm better than you because of this, because I went to Australia, and because I did this retreat. I was so grounded and neutral and just like observant of it and just let it be that person's thing and just decide I'm just not going to contribute to it. I'm not going to let it be my thing. You can let it be your thing, but I'm not going to let it be my thing. And I think it's actually a lot easier, I realized, when you do intrinsic confidence work and you get so solid in who you are and you get really familiar with your ego and how your ego operates, it's a lot easier to not participate in low frequency behavior. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. So we were at a bonfire at one of my friend's houses right after, and someone was gossiping about who, I don't even remember who it was, but someone like a celebrity or something. And they started talking about them and giving like all this energy, talking about this celebrity and what was going on in their life. And for me, like it just truthfully, I didn't care, because celebrity gossip does not impact me. I do not want that in my life, and I'm not impacted by it in the slightest. So they were talking, then they kind of looked at me for my contribution, and I was like, I don't have anything to contribute. And it was as simple as that. And then it got moved on. And then they kind of stopped talking about it. And it doesn't need to be this whole thing of, oh my gosh, people talk about celebrity gossip and people are making excuses and people are complaining and blah, 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 and I'm so much better than other people. Because the moment that you think that you're better than someone else, that's your ego talking. And you're actually not better than someone else, and you have a lot of work to do. The moment you realize other people's life, they can do what they want, it doesn't impact me. I'm just going to focus on my journey, what I want. And if this like low frequency behavior is kind of like coming into my world, I just don't have to give it energy. I just go, I'm not contributing to this. I have nothing to contribute, and leave it at that. And the more that you do that, and the more that you show people what you're available for and what you're not, they're going to start to learn what it's like to be in your world. Two things are going to happen. One, they're going to start to learn what it's like to be in your world. So they just know you don't really like to gossip. You don't like to complain. You don't like to talk about celebrity drama. Like, you don't like that stuff. So they're just not going to bring it up around you. So what's happening is you're actually co-creating the environment that you exist in with your friends, with your family members, with whoever, because they start to recognize what you like to do and what you don't like to do. And I'll give you another example of this. I talk about this all the time with my family. They know that when I go to visit my family, I don't want to watch Netflix. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to go to a movie. Like, I don't want to be on screens. And for a while, it took me of saying like, hey, let's actually do something else. I don't want to watch TV. Because I don't feel like I'm here to visit you, and I don't feel like me sitting in front of a TV watching a screen with you is actually a way of connecting with you. So let's play a game. Let's talk. Let's do something else. And I did that over and over and over again. And now when I come home, they don't even bring up the option to watch a movie or watch Netflix. It's just like a normal thing, right? So I co-created the environment that I wanted to exist in with my family because I showed them what I was available for and what I wasn't. So you don't have to make it this whole thing. The moment that you care what other people are doing with their lives, how they're showing up, you're in your ego. Worry about yourself, show people what you're available for and what you're not, and don't make anyone else out to be wrong, because that's their journey. That's not your journey. Lead yourself first, because the second thing that's going to happen is the more that you show people and lead by example and say like, hey, I'm just not available for gossip. I'm not available for complaining. That's just not normal for me. That's not what I want to do. The more that you do that, naturally what's going to happen, not by pushing this on other people, but just naturally by them watching you and observing you and being in your energy, they're going to start to shift their behavior to match your behavior. Or they just won't, and then you just won't be friends with them anymore. That's just what it is. But what I've found more than that is people just evolve naturally. As you evolve, they naturally evolve as well, where they also realize, hey, maybe actually I shouldn't be complaining as much. Maybe I shouldn't be gossiping as much. I'll give you another small example of this. I go to the gym a lot. I work out frequently. And there's been people in my life who historically weren't very active. They weren't working out, but now they do, because they witnessed me be very active, take very good care of my body, be very healthy. And they've told me, hey, I've actually started doing this because I watch you do it. And it's almost this like unspoken thing where you know that I have a lot of respect for myself, for my body, for my friends, for my environment, and to be in my world, you also kind of have to have that. It's this like unspoken thing that happens. And I've found for most of the people in my life, there are some people who have gotten woven out who just like don't fit into my world. But for most of the people in my life, they've really evolved with me, and they've been able to match the frequencies that I operate at, as long as I just give them patience and I worry about myself. Like, truthfully, it is not your job to put anyone else's journey. Let me rephrase that. It's not your job to put your journey on anyone else of like, hey, I'm caring about my health. Hey, I'm caring about not gossiping. Hey, I'm caring about this. And now I want everyone else to do it who's in my world. I'm going to focus on me and watch and lead myself and watch other people come along. And if they don't, they don't. Right? It gets to be that simple. So what I'm taking away from this is if you want to clean up behaviors, it becomes really easy to, when you're focused on cleaning up something in your life, it becomes very highlighted in everyone else around you. So if you're someone who's working on your screen time, you're going to be very triggered by those around you who are on their phones because you're so hyper focused on it that now all of a sudden you're noticing everyone else on their phones. So the key here is to really get in touch with your ego and realize that this is getting heightened for you because you're just hyper focusing on it yourself. And this journey is not for anyone else except for you. So cool. They're on their phones. Let them be on their phones. Cool. They're complaining. Let them complain. Cool. They're gossiping about celebrities. Let them gossip. It doesn't matter. It doesn't impact you. As long as you decide, I'm not contributing to that, I'm not going to give energy to that, who cares what they do, right? The next thing I took away, and this was probably the biggest thing for me personally, and this could be helpful for a lot of people, is that my personality is my superpower. And I kind of talked about this in the beginning of the episode where I've had a lot of insecurities in my life about my personality. I am very level. I don't have a lot of like highs and lows with emotions. I'm not very animated. I'm not in your face. I'm like not super loud. I'm not like bubbly and like, whoa, whoa. Like I'm just not like that. I'm very grounded. I'm very regulated. I'm a bit more soft spoken and I'm an observer. Like I'm very, very observant. I take on people's energy. I can just read people very well. Like I'm kind of almost this, I've done so many of these tests where it's like introvert versus extrovert test. And every test I've done, I'm literally exactly down the middle. So I have this like really cool dynamic where I can be very outgoing and I love social settings and I do really well in social settings. But then I also am very self-reflective. And I have this like very deep thinking about me and I'm an observer. And for a lot of my life, I had this insecurity of people do not like me because I am not super bubbly and super animated. And because I'm not like that, they are going to think that I'm not warm and that I don't like them. And I've heard people in my life tell me, just because I do have a very strong presence where I'm not the super bubbly, but like you can feel my presence. I'm like one of those people, like if I say something, it's really impactful and I can really like see into your soul when I'm talking to you. I've heard before in my past that people tell me I'm intimidating. I've gotten that reflected back to me. You're intimidating, and then people come into my world and they start getting to know me, whether it's clients or friends or whoever, and they're like, oh, you're actually not intimidating at all. This is just your personality. And I really appreciate it. So there's something about me, my front that I come off that I'm a bit intimidating to people. And I've heard this before from clients who have worked with me, who you see my content online and you see like the routines I have and the standards I have and the conversations I have. And I do come off a little intimidating, but then you work with me on a one-to-one basis and it's like, oh, you actually care so much and you are so genuine and you lead with your heart. And that's so cool to see. So when I went to the retreat, one of the biggest things that I had was this insecurity. I knew I was still holding on to it. And there's a piece of me that just still believed it to be true. So when I went to this retreat, I brought this up to the girls of like, this is how I feel. This is still holding me back. I think that people do not like me. So sometimes I try to like overcompensate for that. And what I learned is one of the girls there, she's very, very similar to me. And she went through a very similar process where people tell her she's a bit cold. People tell her she's a bit intimidating. People tell her, she's not as warm as other people. And I had this really, really beautiful conversation with her. And something about the way that she said this to me just clicked. But she told me, with my clients and with my business, people don't have to like me. They just have to respect me. It doesn't matter if people like me. They just have to respect me. And that just like something about that just really landed for me. And when you're a business owner, that's true. Is like, you don't have to have people like you. Why am I trying to get everyone to like me? There's a difference between my business and like my close friends and family. My close friends and family, of course, they like me. They're in my world. They know my heart. They know who I am. That's perfect. But my issue was with my business and my clients and my audience of, do they feel like I'm too out of touch for them? Do they feel like I'm not relatable enough to them? And she just said to me directly, like, but you need to be unrelatable. The fact that you're unrelatable and that you have the mindsets you have and the perspectives you have and the routines you have and the standards you have, like, that's why people learn from you. That's why you have such an impact because of the mindsets you have and because of the standard you hold yourself to and the way that you are more direct and more honest. Maybe people don't like that, but you get people results. You have knowledge that other people do not have. You have perspectives that other people do not have. And I think for the first time ever at that retreat, I had fully accepted, like, yeah, my personality is actually my superpower. I'm not super animated. I'm not super bubbly. I'm not going to be the loudest one in the room, but I am going to fucking change your life because I can see you. I watch people. I understand people. I have a very blunt and direct delivery. I have this like crazy accountability for my life that I think a lot of people don't. And a lot of the perspectives that I have really change people's lives. And that's true with the clients that I've worked with. It's true with any of the clients I'm going to work with in the future. And I think that just dissolved this like huge limiting belief that I had of my audience thinks I'm too cold. My audience thinks I'm unrelatable. They are not going to want to work with me. And I'm not trying to out here to get people to like me. I'm not trying to be best friends with anyone. Do I become friends with my clients? Yes, that does happen just naturally. But I'm trying to change your life. Like, you hired me for a reason. So I just need you to respect me. I don't necessarily need you to like me. Because I'm going to call you out on your shit. And I'm going to change your life. And that's just how it is. And I have fully accepted that. And that's been a huge blessing. Another thing I took away was just how much we overcomplicate things because we love pity parties for ourselves. We love pity parties. There were so many things that came up this weekend of blocks that people and myself had in their life. And it was like, well, why don't you just do the XYZ to figure it out? Like, you don't understand how to manage your money? Okay, figure it out. Look it up. You don't know how to run properly? Okay, figure it out. One of the biggest insecurities for me this weekend was there's one section where we did some cardio work. I am fit. I go to the gym. I like to think that I can do all the stuff and that I'm going to really excel in these like physical activities. However, when we started doing cardio, I was not good at cardio and it really showed. And I was behind a lot of people doing cardio and I was like, fuck. And it really brought out a lot of insecurities in me because I was like, I like to think I'm someone who's fit and here I am struggling with cardio. And I had this conversation with Dij'a and she's like, well, then just look up how to be a better runner. Like, have you looked it up? Have you done any YouTube on like how to actually run? What's the correct form? How to breathe properly? And I was like, no, I haven't. And it gets to be that simple. There's so many things that we overcomplicate in life because we actually enjoy the drama. Like there's such an easy route for everything. Like, if you don't know how to do this, let's just figure it out. Let's put in the work to figure it out. If you're not good at marketing your business, buy a marketing course, buy some books, like go online, figure it out. But we like to do this whole thing where we like to pretend we don't know what to do and we're overwhelmed. And so that we don't actually have to put in the work to figure out how the F to do it. Another big takeaway I took from the retreat which was actually from one singular moment. So from day one, when we first got there, we were told that we had to wear these 20-pound weight vests for 3 days. We could not take them off. It was torrential downpouring rain. We worked out in them. We ate in them. We talked in them. We took a shit in them. Like, literally, you wore them all the time. And we would work out with them in the rain. We'd have to come back inside and still wear them. It didn't matter that they were wet. The only time we could take them off was when we were actually laying down to go to sleep. And what these weight vests represented is all the insecurities and the baggage and the shit that we just carry around with us on a daily basis. And to really feel that for 3 days, it's severely uncomfortable. Your back is really starting to hurt. Your shoulders are hurting from where it's rubbing on you. We're doing all these really intense workouts, which are really hard as is. But then to add on this 20-pound weight vest, it's just like, not only is it heavy, but it's just really awkward and it's flapping around. It's like hitting you and you're trying to do push-ups and it's like, it's really difficult. And we had gotten to the point where we were at day 3 and we were doing the final exercise, which was not only us having these 20-pound weight vests, but we were actually carrying an additional 20-pound weight plate. And we did a sprint across the field with them. Now, we had just gotten off of one of the hardest workouts that I have ever done. And we were doing one more sprint across the field, which I already said, I am not good at cardio. I felt myself getting into my ego. And when we were about to start the sprint, I felt myself just getting back to my old ways, getting in my ego, getting to like bratty Danielle of like, this sucks. I don't want to be here. I hate cardio. And I could feel myself getting very reactive because I was about to do this exercise that I didn't really want to do. And so we did it and I ran down the field and we got to the end and everyone was just gave it their all. And Dij'a asked us, she was like, okay, are you guys ready now after 3 days to take off these weight vests, right? Like we're itching for this moment. We're dying for this moment. Everyone is like, yes, I'm fucking ready. I understand. I don't want these insecurities anymore. I'm not going to carry this around. Like the lesson had been learned for everyone. And she said, is there anyone who does not want to take their best off, who's not ready to take their best off? And for me, in that moment, I recognized, okay, I had gotten so far and I had spent so much time and energy and effort to get to this place of actually being in Australia, being at this retreat, having the courage and the confidence to be here, and all the character that I had built in this weekend. Was I about to take off this vest with the effort that I put in that last run? And immediately there was just something inside me that I didn't even think about it, but I immediately just raised my hand and I was like, I'm not ready to take it off. I'm not ready to take it off. And I knew that every single girl there was probably going to be like, ugh, right? Like have that, I don't want to do it again. Because the whole weekend was an entire teamwork thing where if one person stopped, we all had to go again. If one person, messed up, we all had to go again. It was a whole team effort. So I knew that if I raised my hand and said, I'm not ready to take it off, I want to do the exercise again, that the entirety of the group was going to do it. But that really wasn't in the forefront of my mind. The forefront of my mind was, I want to be in integrity. And I know that run was not all that I had to give. And no one but me would have known that. Literally not one single person there would have known that. I could have not raised my hand. I could have said, yep, I'm ready to take it off. But you know what? Who would have known? I would have known. And that's worse than any other person knowing, is me knowing. And that's the relationship that I built with myself of, we lie to ourselves, we manipulate ourselves, we cheat ourselves on a daily basis more than anyone else out there, right? Like we say we're going to do something and we don't, but no one else knows, right? It's the small things that no one else knows. We say we're going to get up early and we don't. We say we're going to work out and we don't, but no one knows. It doesn't really matter, right? Like, but that's not the relationship. And this is why so many people struggle with confidence, is because they're okay lying, manipulating, cheating themselves above everyone else. And you don't maybe realize you're doing this because that sounds kind of harsh, but when you think about the micro day-to-day moments of, I said I was going to do that and I didn't. I said I was going to give that my all and I didn't. I said I was going to run a mile and I ran 0.8. No one's going to know. That's why we struggle with confidence, because we don't trust ourselves. We're signaling to our brain, you're not trustworthy. You don't follow through with what you say you're going to do. And in that moment, I was like, I am such an integral human being. And I would not have been able to walk out of here being like, I gave it my all in that last run. It's just not who I am. So I raised my hand and I said, I need to do that again. I need to do it again. And she said, okay, we're all going to do it again. And what was really cool in that moment was, again, just recognizing that the work that I had done to get to that place has paid off. Of I actually am in integrity with what I say. I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk. Like I was in a moment that I tested myself of, you could just shut your mouth. You could just keep this to yourself. You could not piss anyone else off. You could just go along with what everyone else is doing and be fine. Or you can do what you have told yourself that you want to do in these types of situations. And you can prove to yourself that you actually have the integrity and you have the self-trust and you have that relationship with yourself to be able to speak up, even if no one knows it. And so I did. And I think the coolest part, so that was a really cool moment, but the coolest part came right after that, where I thought the girls were going to be frustrated because they're ready to take these vests off. Like they did not want to do this exercise again, where we're sprinting across this huge like football field with the weight vest and then these 20-pound weight plates. But not a single one of them made a sigh, made a comment, showed any sort of frustration. They were just like, okay, yep, let's go, let's do it. Because they knew that this wasn't only about them. The work that we're doing, the character that we're building, it's not an individual thing. It's not about just me. It's not about just that person. It's about the collective. It's about everyone that we're impacting. It's about our friends, our family, our clients, their friends, their family, our future children. Like it's so many people that we're working on. And if there's a lesson to be learned, like we're going to do it together, because they know that the lesson that I'm going to learn from that moment is going to impact me and all the people that I'm going to then go on and impact. So they're ready to be a part of it. So it was so cool of like witnessing these powerful women. And again, going back to like what we normalize, I've normalized like, oh, I'm a burden to other people. I'm, XYZ. But when you put yourself in the room with people who get it, with people who have these mindsets of, I want you to be better, so I'm going to go along the ride with you, you start to realize what your norm gets to be. right? These girls weren't making it mean something about them. When they heard, okay, we have to do this exercise all over again, they didn't make it about them. They made it about the collective. They made it about, oh, Danielle has another lesson to learn. Okay, we're going to do it with her. And that was so fucking cool. There was one girl, Ashley, there who even said to me, hey, similar situation happened to me at the last retreat. I don't think your weight plate's heavy enough. I think you need to carry actually a heavier plate. And she switched with me, and I carried a 30-pound weight plate for the last run. And just knowing the collective was behind me. And I think that's something I think about now too. So there's times where I'm running outside or I'm exercising and I'm like, oh, you know, I've run 2 miles. Maybe I should stop. But even though I said I was going to run 3, but in my head, I'm like, what about the collective? What about the people that you're impacting? What about the women who were at the retreat? Would they want you to give up? And that moment has just stuck with me for so long. And every time I go to give up, it's like, it's not just about me. It's not. It's literally not about me. The work that you do on yourself, it's not about you. It's about everyone that you're going to impact. It's every time I quit, every time I give up, every time I make an excuse, every time I let someone else's fear of what they're going to think about me stop me. Every time I second guess anything, it's not me I'm impacting. It's every single person that I'm leading by example or will go on to impact in my life. It's my clients, it's my family, it's my friends, it's my future children if I have them, their future children, right? So just shifting out of that mindset of being so self-obsessed and focused on you and making everything about you. And it's like, this isn't about you. It's about the collective. It's about the larger impact that you can make by the actions that you take, by the words that you say, by the goals you achieve, by the times you do things that are uncomfortable. There was another instance this weekend where we all had to make our beds. And if you didn't, we had to do squats. And one girl didn't make her bed. And we're like, okay, we're all doing squats. And there wasn't this same thing. It wasn't this frustration. It was like, we're all in this together. We could have told her, hey, your bed isn't made. And we didn't. Right? If a friend of yours isn't doing well, you're just going to let them like fall behind you? No. We work to be better so that others can be better as well. Lead by example. That was a huge moment, and it was so cool. And that's something I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. And I think the last thing I want to talk about, actually 2 more things I want to talk about. One was how much regulating your emotions is important. I'm actually coming out with a whole program on this called Mentally Strong, which is all around being able to regulate your emotions. But there was this one workout that we did that was really, really, really challenging. Probably one of the hardest things I've done. There's a lot of videos of this of me just like grimacing in my face, and it's really funny to watch back. But we did this workout, and it was very difficult. And it was 5 a.m. It was still dark out. And a lot of us, it was intentionally meant to be very silent. So she wanted us to be very silent, no cheering each other on, because she wanted us to just hear our own mental voice, our own mental chatter, what was coming up for us. And so it was done very silently. So you could hear everyone kind of groaning and getting emotional and crying, and you could hear all the emotions happening. And we finished the workout, and what Deanna said to us was like, do you realize how much you're letting your emotions take over you? You're literally doing push-ups. Like, you're not going to die. And I guarantee, and she was talking for a few minutes, and afterwards she was like, I guarantee none of you even feel that pain anymore. And just to realize like how much we were letting our emotions take over, because as soon as you start being like, oh, this sucks. Oh, what am I doing? This is so hard. And you start spiraling, you start like crying, you start getting emotional, you start breathing heavy. You start to go down that path of my emotions are starting to control me. And now the stories are starting to support that. And if you just focus on your breathing, focus on regulating your emotions, focus on grounding yourself back in. I mean, like, we're just doing push-ups. It's not that hard. It'll be over in 30 minutes. And what she did is she said to us, okay, we're going to do this again. We're going to do this exact workout again. And the change from the first workout to the second workout, where we were all just very grounded, the second workout, didn't let our emotions get to us. I know for me, like, I stayed very regulated. I wasn't crying. I wasn't huffing and puffing. That first workout I was. The second workout, I was very grounded. And I pumped it out so much harder than the first one. So it's recognizing the importance of when something happens, like, are you letting your emotions just take over and control you? And focus back on your breathing. Focus back on grounding yourself. Like I said, I have a whole program coming out on this. It's all around managing insecurities, managing self-doubt, how we can stop being so sensitive and at the mercy of our emotions so that we can be really grounded human beings. And because of that, become really, really powerfully confident. If you want to learn more about that, send me a message over on Instagram. It's called Mentally Strong. The last thing I want to talk about today is how quickly people are to judge something that's different from what they normalize. And it's funny, just kind of what I was talking about in the earlier of this episode is just the comments that I got on this video of, is this a cult? Like, why would you even want to be here? Like, this is crazy. What is this alpha femme shit? Like, why are people working out? Why are you doing this? Like, why? Why would you put yourself in this situation? And it's really interesting to me of like, you don't know what you don't understand. And it's so easy to place projections on people's lifestyles, their mindsets, because of something that is different than you. And like I was saying earlier, if someone triggers you, if someone is doing something in their life and you're interested and you're like, what are they doing? If it's getting you to think about your own life, if it's getting you to question like, that's not what I normally do. Get in their world, like see what the heck they're doing. Get past that initial point of getting triggered and be like, okay, well, why am I getting triggered? Why does this feel dysregulating for me? Why does this not feel normal for me? Because the conversations that we had at that retreat would floor a lot of people. They would be like, wait, you actually talk about this? Wait, you can be this vulnerable? Wait, you can be this direct and this honest with each other and like not get upset or take offense? Like an average person, if they could witness the conversations and the standards and everything that went down this weekend at the retreat, they would be absolutely mind blown. But that world does exist because there was once a time that I didn't know that world existed. And I operated in my own little bubble with my own little friends in my mindsets of being really reactive, being very emotional, having to tiptoe around friends, having to tiptoe around people, gossiping a lot, being very manipulative with friends, going behind each other's back. Like I didn't know a world existed where I could have the most clean, intimate, authentic friendships, where I could have the most healthy and intimate relationships, where I could actually have conversations with people, be very direct, and not have to like tiptoe around them, and that would be perfectly fine. They would receive it very well. That I would have certain standards and boundaries that I would hold in place, and that people would accept that. Like I didn't know that type of world existed until I got curious, and I started looking at, hey, what's this person doing? So I invite you, if you get triggered by my content, if you're like, what the actual F is she doing over there? Her routines are too strict. Her standards are too strict. The way she talks is too this, too that, too that. Whatever projection you have, and maybe it's not even me, maybe it's anyone. If you have a really strong opinion about someone, put that projection aside and be like, what is happening here? Why am I getting triggered? Why am I creating this story about this person? Because you may think that my lifestyle or my routines or my standards are not sustainable, but you actually have no idea. You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. And also, it may seem unsustainable for the current situation you're in. Me 2 years ago, looking at the life I have now, I could have never imagined. I could have never imagined holding myself to the routines I do, the standards, the boundaries, the conversations I have, just like what I expect of myself on a day-to-day basis. I could have never actually physically imagined because it was too far away from me. But the more that you get curious and the more you question your own norm, because there is no normal, like what you normalize, there's so much more out there. There's someone else that's normalizing something 10 steps ahead. And I think that's what I've realized because I've met a lot of women. When you start doing this type of work, when you start building your confidence, when you start growing, when you start going after your dreams, you start meeting a lot of people along the way who are doing the same thing. And you realize, oh shit, I'm not an outlier. This crazy idea that I have, this crazy vision I have for my life, it's actually not that crazy. There's actually people living it, and it's actually very normal for them. And that gets to be a reality when you start to question your norm, when you start to question your reality, when you start to question, there's got to be more to life than this. Like there has to be, I can communicate better, right? Like I can be happier. I can actually accomplish these things I want to accomplish. And you can, because there's things that I accomplished that I quite literally could have never even imagined had I not gotten curious. Had I not had that itch of like, there has to be more to life than this. I'm going to leave it at that. The retreat was incredible. If you have any questions, like hop into my DMs about it. I am super happy to answer anything. Deanna is absolutely incredible, and I highly, highly, highly recommend going to her page, following her, attending one of her events if you can. She's amazing. And I'm so excited to see what you guys take from this. If you have any takeaways, if anything landed, if you just want to know more, shoot me a message over on Instagram at Danielle Marie Lowy, and I will see you soon.